Hi, I'm Diana Montford, the world's first transgender television journalist. Born male, became female, and you can see us on YouTube in shows dating back to 1991. My guest is renowned psychic practitioner, Ms. Sylvia Chappell. You've seen her many times on this show before, and hopefully will again. And she has some interesting things to tell us and show us. And, well, hi.
Hello, thank you for having me on your show again.
My pleasure. What is all this stuff?
I've brought along, since we're going to be speaking about insights from the Akashic Records.
Mm-hmm. Now, what are the Akashic Records?
The Akashic Records are a library, not a physical library, but a field of living energy that holds the records of all of us, of the earth, everything we've done in the past, everything we're thinking about doing in the present, and the probable futures of that.
And that's of everyone who ever lived or ever will live.
Yes, yes. And yes, and it's quite comprehensive, and I've learned a modality that I've been practicing for 5 years now, of accessing, connecting with the Akashic record keepers, usually for a client, but I also do that for myself, and I've also just done that before this show in terms of receiving insights or information that would be beneficial for the audience.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
And yes, and these are some of I also add, in addition to the information portion that I receive through the Akashic record keepers, there is also, they utilize my ability as an intuitive healer, Reiki master, and I do some chanting and I do some toning. I work with this Himalayan bowl and some crystals, and those are to provide specific vibrations that we can speak about later, but the
Well, now let
intent
me
is-
ask you about crystals. Do they work? Do crystals in general work?
in the sense of
All right, let's
adding
say someone is very sick and you buy him, say, a healing crystal. Will that help to heal him?
It should, if the vibration is the correct one for that particular person. It should. It also helps to have a positive intention in working with that. Yeah.
And now this to me looks like a mortar and pestle. What is that all about?
Okay, well, this is a Himalayan bowl made out of metal, has some sacred
Where do you buy
Sanskrit
those?
here in the village.
Namast, whatever it's called?
Some of the places like that,
Yeah.
yes. I bought this one from a sound healer that I learned a lot from, named Jill Matson. And
Named what?
Jill Matson.
Jill Matson.
Matson. And so I have learned to incorporate it, or been guided to incorporate this and the vibrations of my voice and various crystals and stones. It's all happens kind of intuitively. I go with what the Akashic record keepers of the individual, or in this case of the collective, want me to impart.
Now, we live in a three-dimensional world. The Akashic record keepers are on an 11th dimensional world.
Yes, believed to be on the 11th dimension.
Some of them have never incarnated physically. Is that true?
From what I understand, none of them have.
Oh, okay.
Some of those who set up the Akashic records way back before there was any human activity on the earth or in the earth or involving the earth, and some of those beings have had human incarnations, and I would imagine that some of them are very adept at reading the Akashic records through whatever culture or whatever methodology that they've been in, because one of the things that comes through many of the readings that I do is that there are ancient civilizations that we think of, Egypt, Atlantis, Lemuria, that they're real, and there was a very high level of attunement, especially in technologies that are intuitive or based or psychic based. And people actually worked psychically and intuitively with crystals.
But sometimes, well, they say that that's what the Bermuda Triangle is.
Yeah.
A crystal that sort of emanates, what is it? Some kind of power that either transfers people to a different dimension or does something to them. And that it's down in the ocean because when Atlantis sank, and Bimini is a chip of Atlantis, I believe, the island of Bimini. You know, what do you do with an old nuclear reactor? I mean, there you go, you know.
Yes, and it's still having a major energetic effect. And this gets into some of the things that you're talking about that Edgar Cayce came through his readings about Bimini and that Atlantis was real. And it's interesting that you mentioned that because...
Come a little closer.
It's interesting that you...
No, I'm not making a pass. It's for the camera. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Because several of the people who come to me for readings, I'd say maybe about a couple dozen by now, were part of the group who were spiritual scientists, is the term that the record keepers use. Not just the nuts and bolts scientists that we have today. I mean, I'm not denigrating scientists, but we have a more materialistic view
a very narrow
science.
view, unlike the more Catholic, in a sense, the more embracing view. Catholic means universal, that they had there.
Using universal energies.
As opposed to parochial, yes.
Okay. And so many of the people who come to me are, one of the reasons that they've come to me, guided by their intuition, is because they're still carrying traumas and judgments about that time in Atlantis when this great experiment that was intended to be positive went so terribly wrong.
I have two questions for you. Does that necklace mean something?
It's adventurine, and I like wearing it because it puts this wonderful crystal next to my heart.
And that's good for it, right?
Yes, and it's actually more of a shield shape. And I
also
like the vibration
with a purple outfit.
The vibration of this. Thank you.
Second thing I want to say is, now I'm not going to mention any names, but we both know a woman, a highly renowned psychic practitioner, whom I had on the show once, and everything started well enough. We're not mentioning any names, and it just devolved into this reciprocal hostility out of nowhere. And I thought about this, and I mentioned it to you. It's not the person she is today. All right, you're going to think I'm insane. I think that she and I, this woman, were both on Atlantis and were rival, what was it, psychic scientists or whatever?
The spiritual scientists.
Yes, and I think that came to the fore when she was here, you know?
Yes.
For both of us.
Yes, and that could be why you were brought together, because it's triggering something that is better to release now.
I agree, yes.
In this life. And there is a concerted effort when we're in spirit looking at this lifetime and this period that we're in, because there are a lot of parallels. The experiment in Atlantis, as I understand from the Akashic Records readings, was to tune the great crystal that was powering everything, including airships, according to Edgar Cayce.
Which would be not unlike nuclear energy today, really.
Probably a lot cleaner.
Yeah.
And more
less
powerful.
dangerous.
And more powerful. Except when it's tuned by those who would have this experiment fail. And so there were other crystals around the earth, and it was also to be tuned to the core of the earth, the heart of the earth. And so the idea was that everyone was going to ascend, and by ascend just means going to a higher vibration and...
Not physically, not like the leftovers. You don't disappear. You just
the
grow
left behinds. But
right,
you evolve in consciousness. So as I understand it, you actually do shift into another world.
Well, now this particular psychic I was discussing said that many of us are going into the fifth dimension. And sadly, some people are not and will stay in the third dimension.
Yes, but we have a choice. I mean, that's the whole thing. That's the way that this cosmic, as I understand it, this cosmic cycle is set up. We'll all have the opportunity and the energies to support us in the choices that we make that bring us, that are more loving choices, bring us closer to our divine nature.
Exactly, yeah.
And who we truly are as souls.
Okay, now to return to the Tibetan bowl. I don't understand. You make a noise with it and?
And I add the energy of my voice. I work with crystals or stones. I used to just work with them.
Let me just show them.
All right.
These are literally stones. They're finished. They're
This is
polished.
obsidian.
Yeah, well, what is this?
That's goldstone.
Okay.
I like it because it sparkles. Various bismuth, tiger eye, and this is a stone. I forget what the stone is, but if you can see it, it has the word dream written on it. So that adds the vibration of dreams coming true. I used to work separately with the bowl and the crystals. Then I was guided by the record keepers to start plinking the crystals in there and then making
For
the
the
sound.
sound?
And it buzzes in some kind of funny way.
Okay.
But you know, I'm the
do you want to
channel
show
here.
us?
Well, yes, I do want to, and I'd like to do it with an intention. And this
Okay.
comes from I've consulted my record keepers as well as a few beings that you might recognize who are who are serving as guides for us, for
Yes.
all of humankind, in terms of this ascension or enlightening of consciousness. And one of them is Archangel Gabriel.
Excuse me, yes.
And so Archangel Gabriel has been identified to me in the readings as the angel of ascension. So, I mean, again, it's not that last judgment thing where there's these people are saved and
We're
these
forever,
people are
so
damned.
there's no
and-
last judgment.
Right. Yes, and we decide by the choices we make, the vibrational level, you know, and we think of, and so it's all about vibration.
Okay, now, but let's say some inner city young person is never exposed to higher vibrations and becomes a criminal because she or he has not been exposed to anything else. But are you saying that that person, before she or he came to Earth, chose that life to experience a criminal life, something like that?
To experience, yes, I believe the record keepers say that when we're planning our incarnations, we work with the Council of Elders and the Weavers of Time. I love that phrase, Weavers of Time. And they describe that the Weavers of Time, the Council of Elders help us to make wise choices. They won't override our free will, but help us
Wise
to
choices
choose wisely
in these lives.
of the situations that we choose.
Like, don't marry the wife beater, marry the minister, that kind of thing.
Or yes, or release the stuff that you're carrying from the past about what you're still beating yourself up about.
That we've done in this life or in other lives?
Subconsciously.
see.
Or release the patterns that don't serve, like the patterns of I'm not good enough, or
And we've all been trained, well, society depends on we're not good enough. Buy our deodorant, buy our this, buy our that.
well, there is a lot of programming that's out there.
Yeah.
And if we have the record keepers call it, if we have the receptors to that program because we've had issues with that in a past life, then guess what? All that stuff, that programming sticks. And so basically, I'm sorry, I've kind of lost my train of thought here, but we would do the bowl.
Are you going to do a chant?
I am. And one of the things that, as I had said, this is to help us release, just like the Atlantean scientist. There are a lot of self-judgments about why that experiment went wrong. There were corrupting influences. There were groups that wanted to sabotage it for their own agendas of power and control.
Yes.
And the record keepers never judge. They just say, this is what was going on. And so it did go wrong in that case, and it was horrific. And many of those, I say many of us, to include myself and those watching, many of us carry a trauma, a belief that we totally screwed up.
Because
And-
in a sense we sort of did.
Well, we had our issues and there were circumstances and we made the judgment. It's not like there's the karmic board is after you.
This sounds like a non sequitur, but do you know that woman who teaches at the ARE, the Prosperity Course? What's her name? Quidorel, something like that?
Sorry, I don't.
Oh, well, she's half Basque, and I am too, and we're like real like physical Atlanteans, because we swam apparently and saved ourselves.
Yes,
you know?
and Atlantis, there were many remnants of
Yes,
that
and
and
we're
high
like actual
civilizations.
physical ones,
But you
yes.
had to start over
Oh,
again
yes.
with lower technologies.
No fun being a goat herd or something. Yes.
Anyway, so in terms of releasing these judgments, one of the judgments or belief systems that the record keepers most often help people release is the belief that we are separate and disconnected from God, the divine, whatever name you want to call that being. And it goes along with the belief systems that say humans are sinners, we are lowly in the sight of God.
That's a very
and
Judeo-Christian idea.
it's a belief system that has the effect of keeping people disconnected.
So a few can have power over the masses.
Seems to be the gist of it. And the record keepers, and the more inner work we do, and the more that we do to call in those who are divine beings who can help us, and connect with our own soul self or our God self, the more we do that, then we transcend all of that.
Well, maybe because of the time element, we should start.
Okay, I'm going to do that. And the other sponsors of this, in addition to Archangel Gabriel, are Hagia Sophia, who is Holy Wisdom or the Holy Spirit, and the Goddess of Liberty, who is depicted right in New York Harbor as the
Yes,
Statue
Lady
of Liberty, helping to free us from what we've brought forward that's keeping us locked in the third dimension.
Now, I should warn you that chanting can seem strange and maybe even a little frightening, but it is nothing bad. But I know that if you're not used to it, it can be startling, you know.
Okay, well, I hope I will not be too startling, but we'll see. And this is to assist in connecting with everyone watching, with your higher self or divine self. Hagia Sophia, 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 Hagia Sophia. Arion, Arion, Arion. So that was the intent of that brief chanting, was to clear out negative beliefs that keep us disconnected and to awaken the true nature of who we are.
Do you put different stones or crystals in the bowl depending on the effect you want? Like what the result you want?
Yes, as I'm guided. So, and that is the record keepers always will encourage individuals who've received this, or anyone, to continue to work with connecting with beings of pure God light. It can be your own guardian angel, Archangel Gabriel, any of the beings of And it's important to stipulate pure God light or 100% God light, for they're the beings who have our highest and best interest at heart. And
is it possible
humanity's.
that bad discarnates can pretend to be higher-minded beings and slip into us or something?
Well, there are beings that appear like light to us, and they have greater abilities, and at times, as I understand it, we've accepted them as gods. And they're kind of a middle station
Yeah, I always
between.
thought they were sort of like ghosts.
And
When I'm home alone, I see lights, white lights flashing, like, and I'll stare and it'll disappear, you know? And it's not an eye problem. I mean, especially late at night or if I'm concentrating on something metaphysical, you know? So, well, our friend Shane, the singer, whom you've seen on this show, moved to LA, that's why you don't see her anymore, took a picture of me and there was this orb going into my solar plexus just before we shot. What was that all about?
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, and so it's important to that your connection to your divine self. And there is part of us, we are part of God. We're not separate from God.
Isn't this mainly the illusion and the spirit is the real thing? We're like having a dream, not a nice one.
Well, as Edgar Cayce said in many readings, spirit is the life. I mean, it's our true existence.
Yes.
Mind is the builder. The physical is the result. So our responsibility is how we use our divine co-creative energy.
Is it basically mind over matter?
It is mind over matter.
I knew a young woman once who was brutally unattractive when she was like 11 years old. By the time she was 21, she was a stunner. Is that concentrating on, I mean, she worked at it, but is that concentrating on that kind of thing?
Well, what we put our minds to and our attention on and power with our emotions, we manifest that.
Money, can we do that?
Sure. That's basically how manifestation works. It's important, though the thoughts, what we're thinking of, and what's powering it. Are these selfish? You know, I want to look gorgeous, so I have power.
All right,
over
it was
people?
my mother, and she had to look gorgeous so she could support her parents and herself, because she was a nightclub entertainer, and they needed
That's
the money.
Very
they were desperate.
high intention.
Yeah.
So that could accelerate, and it could make it easier for her to do that. What a remarkable transformation!
Yeah.
That
Well,
she
the mind
did.
can do almost anything.
Yes, it can, and used properly.
Can the mind cure, for example, cancer or something?
I believe
Or
it
is that
can.
karma?
I believe it can. I think it would be a matter of understanding the root cause, whether it's from a previous life, whether there was some agreement or reason, like before life, before this particular lifetime, where someone believed that they needed to experience that.
I see that, okay.
You know, so we do have a choice in it, but as we said, the weavers of time are the ones who will help each individual, will put together the circumstances, situations, and relationships that will help us learn what we want to learn, or what we said we wanted to learn. Sometimes, a lot of times, we forget, and we forget that we came here to learn something.
And that's the real reason why we're here, isn't it? Just to learn, and to learn love. And we're not here, you know, to watch TV. Well, I shouldn't say that. But we're not here,
Except
you
for
know what I
Diana's
mean.
show.
Yeah, well, that's a good show.
Yeah.
But no, we're not here to eat potato chips and sit on the couch and watch TV. And I mean, we aren't, are we? Or play video games or something.
I don't think that was part of the life plan, but...
How can people contact you? By the way, you give testimonial time here. I've had 3 Akashic record readings with Sylvia. Life-altering in the best possible way. And you ask about people like in your family or your close friends or your, you know, significant others. And the Akashic record keepers, the 11th dimension beings, know and will tell you, you know. So I can't recommend this enough. And I'm very happy with what we did, you know.
Well, thank you. And the origins to an actual pain that you were experiencing in a previous life you were able to
in
address
Hadrian's
those.
Rome, I know how crazy this sounds. In Hadrian's Rome, my boyfriend stabbed me. Oh, boy, I can sure pick him, can't I? Anyway, he stabbed me this way, and I survived unbelievably. They cured me with silver. I don't know how that works. But anyway, all my life I've had lower back pain. After I had a reading with Sylvia, an Akashic record reading, I didn't have lower back pain because now I knew what had caused that lower back pain.
Yeah. And you had the willingness to look at it, to understand it, and then forgive yourself and move on.
Yes, and even forgive my rotten boyfriend
Yeah,
who stabbed me in
forgive
the
your rotten
stomach.
boyfriend.
But anyway.
Yes. And do I have a minute?
Yes, because I also want you to give your contact information.
Okay. It's sylviachappell.net.
Can you spell it?
SylviaChappell.net. And yeah, that's the best way to contact me. And I wanted to just close, if I may,
Yes.
with an energy, and this is to assist us all
Wonderful.
in just reaching out to all the divine beings that are there to help us, the beings of 100% pure God light, who can help us bring out more and more of our own soul's pure God light in all of our daily interactions.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful, beautiful. I'm Diana Montford. My guest has been Sylvia Chappell. I love you. Take good care of yourself. See you next time. Okay. And that was great. That was wonderful. No, what I was afraid of was those Buddhist chants where they're, you know what I mean. They can sound very aggressive.
Yeah,
This
and they
is
can
lovely.
bring up a lot of things too. Yeah. Okay, is this off now? In the
Not yet,
okay.
but it will be once we. Yeah, do you want me to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks.
Just a second.
You've got necklace and
Okay. I see what happened. Okay, now.